was a really simple thing that made a huge difference to my health, and it's something I still prioritize to this day. And that is to really connect with nature. We are nature. It is part of us. We are part of it, and we prioritize it very, very little. We live in boxes, we stare at screens, we eat from boxes, we even cook our food in boxes a lot of the time. And then we wonder why we're so unwell all the time, because we're basically suffering from nature deficiency. So what I realized quite early on in my recovery in general, I really needed to prioritize nature. And I was like, okay, yeah, circadian health. I need to, touch the earth. And if I can't do that, I need to lay on a blanket that touches the earth for me, go to bed at the right time and things like that. But it's so much more than that. As I said just now, we are nature. We thrive when connected to nature. And yes, the hacks are helpful. The grounding blankets or sheets or mats and blue light blocking glasses and all those sorts of things are really helpful when we really can't get out in nature. But if there is any way that we can, then this is going to make the biggest difference. So what I started to do was, even though back then I was suffering from insomnia, I would still go to bed proper time, as close to night time, to it getting dark as possible, but definitely no later than kind of 10 o'clock, because we get a second wind at 11. And I would try to go to sleep. And if I could, great. If I couldn't, then I would just meditate or pray or do something else that was relaxing, and not allow myself to get stressed out anymore about not sleeping, because that's almost as helpful as sleep when we are resting, properly resting. What I also used to do was get up as close to sunrise as possible. And even if I was tired, even if I didn't want to, I would try to. And I would get outside as often as possible and get my feet, as I am doing now in this little meadow, on the ground, and as often as possible and wherever possible. And it doesn't have to be your feet. I understand that some people live in frosty conditions a lot of the year and things like that. So, it can be your hands on the ground or on a tree. It can be when you go out to the hospital, you touch all the shrubs on the way, or the hedges and things like that. If you can't get out very often, then it is making the most of when you do go out. Definitely getting it in your eyes, not wearing sunglasses, not wearing sunscreens, those sorts of things. They block the body's ability to utilize the light, which is one of our natural fuels, which also affects our ATP, mitochondria, all of that kind of thing. It's affecting, so this isn't just some kind of, this is doing things to us. We are meant to be outside. So even if you can't get outside, it's opening a window at sunrise and sunset, getting the daylight or the sun in your eyes, on your skin at sunrise and sunset especially. And, really prioritizing the part of us that needs nature. Well, all of us needs nature really, but, remembering it is a fuel for us, that it's not just about food. Our body gets fuel from the right light, which is not these screens or any screen in your house or LED lights. They're all doing the opposite of nature. So if you are sitting in front of screens and you are under LED lights a lot, then definitely then I would be wearing blue light blocking glasses. And then, I got a little bee friend. And then, remembering that we also get our fuel from good quality water, so not drinking tap water. And if you filter your water, then adding something like fulvic minerals into it, because that would be like the equivalent of the natural minerals we would get from what we used to get from spring water. And then, just as often as possible, getting outside, fresh air in the lungs, daylight, sunlight in the eyes, on the skin. Not blocking those in any way, like I said, with sunglasses and sun creams and things like that. The earth on our feet or on our hands or on any part of our body that we can get it on as often as possible. And like I said, if not the earth, then touching trees and shrubs and things like that are, in the earth, they're doing the same thing. And even when it's cold, getting outside if you can, even if it's rainy, this is a really simple, it's free, it's nourishing to every system of our body, and it is something that makes such a huge difference to us because of that. In our The way we are living our lives, we're like caged animals in a zoo or something. It's not natural for us, and it's no wonder we don't feel well. And I understand that when we don't feel well, we then continue to be inside more. But even, like I said, opening windows, when you go to hospital or doctor's appointments, doing what you can on the way, just stopping for a few moments here and there whenever you can, and making the most of the time that you are outside, if it's not something that is easy for you to do, day to day anyway. But that was a huge part of what I would call kind of routine. I don't like to kind of have forced kind of routines where you're like, right, I'm going to do this at this time and that at that time and that at this time, because when your nervous system is very dysregulated, that can add extra stress and extra triggers, thinking, oh, I'm not doing it right, I'm not trying hard enough, I've missed this, I've got to do that. So really just doing it, like our routine should be, hello, cheetah. Working with the seasons and the cycles of nature, of ourselves, and of each day as well, So remembering again that we are animals like you, yes, and that we need to adapt day to day, to the weather, to the what's going on around us. So remembering to do that, and if we've decided we have this routine that we must do, remember that, and maybe you do feel better for that, but remember that you need to adapt that then to each season and cycle of yourself, your period or the moon cycles if you don't have periods, but also each cycle of each season of the year, and each cycle of the moons and things like that. And it shouldn't be rigid, because as animals, we weren't rigid. We adapted, we changed, we moved. And that's the same when I've mentioned this before with our food and things like that. So, when we say, right, I'm going to eat then at 8 o'clock every day, I'm going to get up at 7 o'clock every day, and I'm going to eat at 8 o'clock every day, and then I'm going to meditate at 9 o'clock every day. Well, that doesn't actually work, because that's not how nature intended us to live. So, you would be better off to get up with the daylight, and that changes throughout the year. And that makes sense also to our bodies, because we're not designed to be up before the daylight. We thrive when we move with these seasons and cycles. So waking with daylight, going to bed as close to darkness as possible, and eating along the way as well, because in the winter we would have needed much more rest. Spring as it is now and into summer and stuff, we needed a lot less. And this goes for everything. This goes for supplementation, if you're supplementing, vitamin D, things like that. We didn't have that in the winter. Everybody takes vitamin D in the winter, but we weren't getting that much vitamin D in the winter. You take vitamin D in the summer if you're unable to get outside. Those sorts of things. We've got it all backwards. When we think of actually how nature works, that's how we should work, and that's how our routine, these air brackets again, should be. It should move and change with each day, each cycle, each season of our own, of the earth. And sometimes we do a lot more, sometimes we do a lot less, sometimes we eat a lot more, sometimes we eat a lot less. And that's how it should be. And the same with our food. We're not eating the same thing every day of every season of every year just because somebody said it was a superfood. That's not how it works. We don't have the microbiome to deal with food like that. We should be eating seasonally and locally, And that shifts and changes throughout the year so that we get the vitamins and minerals we need in the seasons we need it. And this is the same with meditation, grounding, sunlight. Everything we're doing should be adapted each day of each season to what is going on around us, because that's how human beings thrive, because we are animals effectively. We are animals, and we have somehow, somewhere along the lines, forgotten that. And that is what my daily routine, regime, whatever you want to call it, really, that's when it shifted. When I moved from having to do certain things at certain times throughout the day, and getting up at a certain time, and meditating for a certain time, and making sure I ticked all this list of things off. When I moved from that into a more, I guess you would call it, free flowing, natural state of being, that's when things really started to shift for me. And that's what I really prioritize still to this day, is remembering that I am nature and nature is me, and that I will always thrive when I prioritize remembering, when I remember that I am part of this beautiful green, God's green earth around me. And I think that's how everybody heals from everything, really, is to remember that we don't need all these weird, wonderful, crazy things. In fact, all we need is already right here, right beneath our feet, in front of us all the time. That's from me. Ciao for now.